Does the fear of failure play a role in all of this? Because I'm thinking like,
Yes.
if I'm afraid of taking a step, or if I fail, this will what does that mean about me? What is that telling me about myself? Or
Mm.
is that part of the fixed mindset, or is that, how would you go about talking about that?
Yeah, 100%. So, right, if you've got a fixed mindset, you actually may not want to do things because you may fear failure, and you may see failure as something you need to avoid, because either you've got this mindset where you see yourself as clever. And this is very interesting, that if you perceive yourself to be clever, you may not put yourself in situations where you can fail, because you don't want to check. You're clever, so you don't need to test yourself. You've already got that perception. But actually, if you've got a more of a growth mindset, you're like, well, it's not failure, it's feedback. So even if I do this and it doesn't work, it doesn't matter, because actually doing it is going to give me data, which means that's going to inform my decisions. And the great thing about that for business owners, well, for everybody, but often, like if you're doing something new, so I work with lots of business owners, and business owners, like we know, like with all the will in the world, when you're starting a business, there is a lot of things that you need to get right. And so it's not like most people go out into the world and they put their first offer out, and then, a week later, they're earning six figures. It doesn't happen like that. It might happen like that for like a couple of unicorns, but it doesn't really. So actually, it's about putting the offer out, seeing the response, testing it, learning from it. And that is all about growth mindset. And what I see is that if you don't have that growth mindset, it's very, very difficult for people to move forward, because they're constantly thinking, oh, well, that's because I'm not good enough, or that's because I'm not clever enough, or that's because of me, rather than saying, oh, okay, well, actually, that's taught me this. And really, maybe I need to learn a bit more about marketing, or maybe I need to learn a bit more about my audience, or so actually, if we have more of this growth mindset, it gives us the tools to accept. I don't like the failure words, so I'm going to say feedback. Accept feedback.
Precisely. Yeah. I totally agree. It's something that I wholeheartedly believe in as well, that, it's not failure, it's simply feedback. It's data. And if you can be factual about it and even access some neutrality, you can start evaluating that from a more neutral place, and less shame, less guilt and blame and all of those things, because they don't really serve you, I think.
They don't serve you at all. And actually, if you can take yourself out of it, like it is, and all of this, we can look at it as data. I always say, like, imagine that you're a scientist. Imagine that you're a scientist. Scientists test and test and test until they get, they're testing hypothesis. Is this right or is this wrong? Oh, it's the same with us. Adam Grant, the economist and occupational psychologist, is he an occupational psychologist? He might not be that. Like, he talks about this a lot as well, and he talks about a lot of it in relation to mindset too. Like, if you're prepared to challenge how you're thinking, and to realize that your thinking isn't fixed, that actually you can change your thinking, and that you can change it if you get new data or new information. That's really what a growth mindset is. It's about understanding that you can always change and challenge.
It reminds me of, I might have shared this in the past as well in one of these episodes, but there is this very popular story about Thomas Edison, the inventor of the light bulb, or at least, who we know him to be, where he was asked at one point, like, he failed 1,000 times to come up with the material that will light a light bulb. And they said, how did that feel to fail that many times? And he said, no, I didn't fail. I just discovered like 9,900, whatever, 1,000 different materials that just didn't light a light bulb. And to me, that is definitely the growth mindset at work, because it's like every failure is just one step closer to that success, to that outcome that he is actually looking for. And it almost goes back to what you said about sales as well. And I had this conversation just prior to coming on to the show. Something that is said in sales is like the yes lives in the land of no, which is kind of like, it's a no isn't the final destination. It's just part of the process to get to the yes. Now, if you believe that the no is telling you there's a narrative about your worth or your competence or this or that, well, of course, you're going to feel less inclined to keep going. But if you see it as an opportunity to grow, learn, and an invitation to say, yes, there are things I can do better here. And if you're open to that, obviously, it's going to feel easier to walk through that door, I'm sure.
And there's a great story about this. It's very relevant. So artists, this is quite a few artists are taught this way. So instead of, like, they write the list of, let's say, the 50 galleries they really want their art to be in, and they start with the one that is number 50, because the theory is that they get better at pitching their art as they go up. So in a way, like, I don't know what would be at the top, the National Gallery or the Tate or wherever it may be. So by the time they get there, they're so good at pitching their work that they're much more likely to have their work accepted.
Yeah.
And I love that, because most people be like, oh yeah, but if that gallery at the bottom hasn't accepted them, they can't be good enough. And they're saying, oh, well, it's not about the gap. It's not about that. It's about how they're pitching their work and the experience they get from it. And I think this is the thing. It's about growth mindset is about experience. It's about realizing that the very first time you do anything, you're not going to be the best. I've got 2 little girls who currently, thank goodness, are not screaming at each other. So let's hope that they continue to do that over the rest of this. But I say to them all the time, like, they'd be like, oh, mummy, like, this was hard at school. And I'm like, it's always going to be hard. Like, at the beginning, things are going to be hard. And for adults too, if we want to change, it's going to be hard. I hadn't been running for a while, and I went running at the weekend. I started running again. So I'd hurt my foot. And it was really, like, that first 10 minutes was the hardest, but I knew as soon as I did that, it would be easier, and it was. And it's the same with anything that we do.